Light bar on it. Kind of looks goofy now, but from this metal to the back over here, I'm going to fill in some cross struts and make more of like a, half roll cage. It comes up to like right here for a little more protection. I'm going to mount it onto this here. But for now, I ran out of welding steel, so I just hooked this up, and it's pretty damn bright. Let me turn the lights off. And that sucker lights up the whole garage. I'll give you a view from the driver's seat. This thing's gonna be nice going through the damn woods. There's the difference. It's pretty intense. I have it aimed pretty low because I want to see shit that's like right down in front of me, because this thing sits pretty low to the ground. It's going to get a better bumper on the front here, and then sheet metal in this area to keep oncoming slop off the go-kart. But it's a work in progress. Basically, this headlight, being that this engine does not have a alternator or any way of generating electricity for anything else other than the ignition, I went to Walmart and bought a $20 trail cam 12-volt battery and made a little battery box. Now that this motor sits a little farther forward, I have room, and that battery is just going to power it. There's nothing charging the battery. When the battery gets low, I'm just going to hook it up to the good old-fashioned battery charger over there. But essentially, it's the best I can do, being that engine does not have a battery or an electric start with like an alternator set up to charge a battery. I kind of have to have like a battery operated lights to where, when they go dead, they go dead. There's not much I can do about it. I was thinking about using this electric motor off of a electric scooter to charge the battery through DC power buck, but this sprocket on here is the wrong size sprocket, so I might add a charging system off of the drive line later, so that as the wheels are spinning it charges up the light. But right now I do not have the money nor the supplies to set it up, so I figured it's better to have a headlight than not. I'll eventually probably put tail lights on it too, but I'm not sure how. And I was contemplating the idea the other day, putting like a pickup truck style hitch receiver up under the frame here, but not sure how I'm going to do it. Probably going to buy some like square bar stock, like some tube stock, like what the frame is made out of, and make like a miniature version of a pickup truck style hitch receiver to tow trailers, because now that the clutch and transmission has the torque to do it by far. Earlier today, tried doing a burnout and ended up doing a wheelie so bad that the front end literally hit the side of this ladder and smashed in a bunch of these bottles. Like, the whole front end just bobbed up and just smashed into the wall. Did not break anything. I put my feet down and slowed it up and stopped it, so it didn't really hit the wall hard. But it come up, dude, that thing freaking sent the shit out of it. But another thing I'm probably going to do is put a flapper on the exhaust pipe, because it's just at the right angle that if it's outside in the rain, the water's going to go right in the exhaust and ruin my engine, and I don't want that. I have a vent for this to keep dirt out of here, because right now it's just an open hose. That's for like the gas cap of like a dirt bike, or like a motocross dirt bike. So, they're like $1 on Wish, so I just picked one up. it'll keep dirt out of the fuel. And I was just going to put like a fuel filter on there, but if I roll it, it doesn't have a check valve to keep the fuel from coming back out. This little stem that I'm getting does. So it's a little bit better of a setup. So kind of just a few small things. I've got brakes coming in either Monday or Tuesday, hydraulic brakes. And as you might be able to notice, I switched around this pedal because this bar was knocking on there, so I put it inwards because this one's pointed, inwards. So that one should be too. And it's, to be honest with you, it's more comfortable because instead of having my foot sideways, I have it straight up and down. It's more comfortable to operate. Probably going to put the master cylinder back under here with that cable pulling on a rocker lever that pushes in the master cylinder, actuating the brake. Just because the steering linkage would be in the way up front, and the way that master cylinder is, you have to push inwards on the cylinder to compress it, where that brake is set up to pull on something to not push on something. And if I were to put the cylinder, up here, the steering linkage bar would be in the way, and I'd have a clearance issue because that steering linkage bar, there's not enough space between here to put it. So I'm probably going to put it back here somewhere and have something set up. And this cable that's on here is like heavy ass garage door cable. In fact, it is garage door cable. When this cable up here broke at one point, I replaced it with a brand new one, and I took a good section of the old piece and put it on there because it was the heaviest cable I had. It was either that or bicycle cable, and I'd rather trust, a heavy garage door cable that can, probably got like a braking strength of like 1,000 pounds, where this tiny little, bicycle cable is itty bitty little shit. I wouldn't want to be putting a lot of tension on it. And trust me, as fast as this go-kart's gonna go, it's gonna have to stop just as good. And trust me, I'm not cutting any corners with brakes. I was gonna get a set of strap brakes for it that are like a drum brake, but they wrap on the outside of the drum, like a big metal strap with brake compound in it, and it squeezes on the drum. This did originally have strap brakes that rode on the outside of this drum, but the bolt here that mounted them broke off, and somebody welded up a brake disc on here. So I'm gonna try to make the brake disc work because, as you guys probably know, disc brakes are better than drum brakes all day long. So I'm going to try to utilize what it already has. If not, eventually this entire go-kart's getting a whole new rear axle because the rims are welded on, and I want to be able to change it between slicks, turf tires, and potentially some kind of snow tread. Because I have a feeling as torquey as this thing is now, and as fast as it is, this thing's going to peel through light snow. And turf tires are going to be for just off-roading in general, so I can slip and slide around the fields and not tear them up too bad, but then I can, go off-road, like hard pack trail tire. But then the slicks will be for just drifting. This whole go-kart's going to be a drift setup. I do have a drift bar on order that is actually for my car. It is a Ford Escort rally car drift brake. I found that online for $50, so I'm just like, fuck it. And it'll mount right up to the brakes that I'm installing, because it uses 10mm banjo bolts for standard ATV hydraulic brakes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two master cylinders going into a three-way splitter, and one of those master cylinders is going to be the drift bar, and then the other one's going to be the foot pedal, and either one of them is going to actuate the rear disc. For now, I'm just going to set up the disc, but to be able to set up, to add the drift bar, I don't have to break or destroy or tear apart anything. I just have to add it in with that three-way splitter. That's a fairly simple addition to it. Other than finding out where I'm going to mount it, because this go-kart is very narrow on the belly pan, so I'm going to have fun trying to find out where I'm going to put it. But yeah, this go-kart is, I'm fitting a lot of shit into a very compact frame, because as you can see, the back end of this engine, I've got a lot of shit packed up under there. Big ass fuel tank takes up a lot of space, and just this torque converter is supposed to be facing the other way, with the pulley with the red spring on it supposed to be on this side, coming out this way. But for clearance and just mechanical reasons, there's not enough room to put it because of the struts for the exhaust. It was hitting on this, it was hitting on this shield, it just wouldn't work that way, and it worked very easily putting it that way, but I had to move the motor all the way back, which shifted a lot of weight towards the rear end of the vehicle, which makes it very ass end heavy. The majority of the weight, the dead weight on this without a driver, is sitting behind the rear axle or just over it, so it's a wheelie machine. I'm probably going to add like some steel or lead weights or something to the front end of it to kind of keep it on the ground, because right now it's very understeered. It likes to skid. The front tires like to skid more than it does turn. You can see if I turn the wheel and just push it. Now, if it would stay turned, I can even. It would rather skid than turn. Just part of the problem is it doesn't have a differential. It's a live axle or a straight axle. Causes a few issues. You don't have a differential there to let one rear tire spin faster than the other to make that turn. And the front end is like, maybe, I want to say maybe 40 pounds to pick up, where the ass end's mainly like 100 pounds with a full tank of fuel. So, you have twice as much weight in the rear end than the front. The only thing that holds the front end down is really the weight of the driver. A heavier driver would make this thing squat harder and push down on the front harder, but I weigh 180 pounds, so that doesn't do much for counterbalancing this behemoth of an engine. Well, it's not really big, but it's got a lot of fucking power. A lot more power than the frame can fucking handle. And this causes some issues. Right now, mainly, it goes like hell. I just need to basically put brakes on it, the roll cage, and probably tail lights. And this thing's getting completely stripped to the frame and getting paint. Being that I have a couple of these little fuckers, paint guns, I'm going to put some real nice, probably OD green, like a military old school OD green. And maybe camouflage, make it look like a little military Jeep. Because it's kind of where I'm going for with the Army can and fucking all kinds of bullshit, but it is what it is. Definitely at some point I'm going to be looking at redoing the steering linkages, because whether I go for a rack and pinion to kind of, because this thing goes like hell, and the way the steering is really right now, it's very sensitive. You flinch and it darts to one direction. It's very darty. Probably a rack and pinion to kind of dampen out the steering thrash a little bit. And it's definitely going to get a new steering wheel because that thing is beat to shit. New steering shaft because they welded, whoever owned it before me, welded the steering wheel down to the steering shaft, so unless I can salvage that shaft, I'm definitely going to have to do something about that. And I'm probably going to move the steering wheel back towards me some, get it back towards the seat because I have to lean forward to comfortably reach it. Another thing is, once the roll cage is on, I have a 5-point racing harness, a legitimate racing harness for it. I don't know how well it's going to fit. I might have to adjust a few things, but I'd rather have it than not because this thing can get very violent now. With this torque converter on it, it gets violent as all hell. It's got more horsepower than it knows what to do with, and it's causing a controllability issue. It's becoming hard to control, hard to keep on the road. It drifts like nobody's business. Even with the turf tires, I had it spinning on the wet pavement. I mean, you can't hold it down. The front end wants to come up so freaking easy. I pulled a wheelie up across the yard with it just because it was just... I'm sure if it had bitier tires, this thing would pull freaking wheelies. And part of my considering putting on a hitch receiver for it is so that I can switch between a trailer hitch and the wheelie bar, because I definitely don't want the ass end coming down and smacking that exhaust, because that would probably crack the head of the motor, rip the header bolts off. Even though it is braced, it would cause a lot of damage pretty quick. Especially as violent as that 212cc engine is, it could cause some issues pretty quickly. But yeah, it's definitely getting a racing harness from the top of the light bar back to, probably the top of there, and then cross struts and a suede belly pan for a roll cage. And then I'm probably gonna make this up higher so that if it does roll completely upside down, I don't crack my head on the fucking road. But it's gonna be an open cage. There's not gonna be a top on it besides this bar back here. Just because it would be so difficult to get in and out of it that putting a top cover on the roll cage would be stupid. On top of that, with a 5-point harness, you can't come out of the seat anyways. So, as long as you're wearing a helmet, chances are you're probably not going to immediately break your neck. But dude, this thing fucking... it's getting rowdier and rowdier day by day. I keep watching favorite YouTube channel of mine, Cars and Cameras. They're guys that they constantly are building the craziest just go-karts and all kinds of shit. It's impressive, and I'm getting a lot of my ideas for this thing from them, because these guys are professionals. They know what the fuck they're doing, and they've got a lot of good ideas, and kind of just going for it. I mean, try it, see if it works, and if it doesn't, cut it off, try something different. But at the moment, this go-kart's gonna get way meaner real quick. It's just a matter of time and budget. I'm kind of just... I get a few bucks here and there, throw a few bucks into it, save a few bucks for the necessities of life, and then, paycheck to paycheck, putting a few more bucks into it, making it a little meaner and a little meaner. That's why you really haven't seen a complete full overhaul in one day. I could probably go from nothing to something with this thing pretty quick, but it's just a matter of budget. It's pretty low budget. I've pretty much probably put $250, maybe $300 into it so far, and that's with the stuff I have on order already that's not here yet. Yeah, I only paid $50 for the frames, so I mean, most go-karts, you can't touch a beat-to-shit salvage junkyard go-kart for $300. So when I got this thing for $50, I was like, I'm gonna put a decent amount of money into making it absolutely fucking obnoxious. And then when people ask, you know, how much is this thing worth or how much money you got into it, they're gonna shit because fucking I didn't pay a whole lot for the go-kart itself. You know, that money that I would have paid for a great go-kart is gonna go into making this thing great. And in a way, I wanted an old go-kart that, you know, needed a lot of work or was basically a skeleton. There was nothing to it. Because I wanted to make it the way I wanted to make it. And I would hate buying something that's already built and built nice and ripping it up and redoing it the way I want to. With this, it was a salvage piece when I got it. So me making it the way I want it made is improving upon it, if anything. Yes, it doesn't look pretty at the moment, but with new paint on it, it's going to look better, but it's always going to look like a little bit of a redneck rig up, but I mean, it's like a Mad Max deal. It's going to look goofy for a little bit, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm happy with it. It's fast as hell. It's got more than enough horsepower to make anybody drop some fucking brown in their ass pants. So, I mean, fuck, shit. It'll make anybody shit their ass and can ruin their pants. So, can't hurt to move forward. But, yeah, can't think of really much anything else other than paint. I'm definitely going to have Adam, my roommate, being that he went to a college course for automotive detailing, so he's trained to paint cars. I'm going to have him do some of the hand detail work on this when it comes down to painting. I'm going to paint the main body, but I'm going to have him write Death Cart on the back panel here, this back. So I'm going to have him paint Death Cart on the back piece of steel here. And if you're wondering where I got that big piece of galvanized pipe, or piece of steel, it was a piece of galvanized ductwork pipe that I unrolled, cut into a square, and screwed it to it. Because it was the cheapest, easiest piece of sheet metal, and it was going to the scrapyard anyways. But, you know, it's getting there. It doesn't look pretty right now, but I'm happy with it for what I paid for it. I only paid $50 for the skeleton frame, and probably put $250 into it. But, I mean, honestly, you can't touch a beat-to-shit go-kart for $300 anymore. So, I mean, for the money that I have in it now, probably about $250, I'm still less than what it would cost to buy something that was already beat to shit. You can't get a good running go-kart that's even just a piece of shit little yard freaking putt-around kids go-kart for freaking less than $500. They're worth a lot of money, and the way this thing's set up, it looks like a Mad Max freaking drag racer. It's kind of the way I'm getting with it. I'm going to get some OD green military paint, maybe some camo, and make it look like a military Mad Max drag racer, because it's got the big ass rear end with the long narrow front end. Besides the roll cage it's going to go on it, it kind of looks goofy with that light bar on it and no roll cage at the moment, but trust me, when I'm done with it, it's going to look like a freaking monster. But, yeah, it's got some work to go on it yet, but, other than that, it's getting there. It's getting better. I couldn't ask for a better project to keep me busy on the weekends. So, it's better than nothing. I love it.